everybody, I'm Joe Tobias and I'm a wedding photographer based in Seattle, Washington, and today I want to talk a little about film and weddings, which if you haven't caught on or heard lately, film's cool again. And so I thought I'd give you a quick primer on how to get started incorporating film into work that you're already doing as a professional photographer or somewhat professional photographer or whatever. Just a few tips to help you get started. So, the first thing you want to do is you want to acquire a film camera, then you want to get some film, take the film, put it inside the camera, and then start using it. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I kid, I joke, but I kind of don't at the same point, because it really is that easy. I think there's a lot of mysticism, about what film is, and it's way simpler than you think it is. But I think the most important thing, and my first tip that I want to start with, is that it's okay for your film work to look different than your regular work. And in fact, for a lot of people, or for myself included, I want to embrace that. And so let go of the fact that you need it to be uniform, that you need it to match the work that you're already doing. And as soon as you let go of that, it becomes a space you can work in creatively, that you can say, I don't care that this doesn't fit my perfect Instagram feed, that this doesn't look like all the other stuff I've produced before, and that's totally okay. I mean, in this modern age, we live in a point where Instagram, Pinterest, even SEO really rewards kind of a uniformity of making sure that that your work probably looks a lot like other people's, because there's a look that's popular every year, but also just that your work looks consistent. And of course, consistency is really important, because that proves to a client that you are able to make quality photos all the time. But if you're using these tools as a creative outlet, that's kind of something that I really would encourage you to forget and to push away. That isn't to say that there aren't some photographers who do a really good job meshing their digital work and their film work. Someone like Jose Villa, for example, who's able to use his developed presets, or somebody who uses like Mastin Labs or something like that. And you're able to make that line between what's film and what's digital really become blurred and make those photos look the same. But if you've created an aesthetic purely in digital, it's going to be really difficult to then recreate that same look in film, because you already have an established brand, you already established colors, so you're going to be working backwards and trying to use film to reverse engineer a look you already have. Whereas it's possible, but it just seems like so much more work, and honestly it seems less creatively freeing than what you're hoping to get out of film. And so I'd say, feel free to let go of those things. Feel free to make photos that look different. When I deliver my film photos to my wedding clients, they receive all of the digital photos which match the brand, which match the colors, which match all the normal stuff that they can expect and why they hired me. But then they also get the film photos, and those are expressly different, and that's okay. For me, film is about being different. It's about trying double exposures and kooky cameras and all kinds of weird things that step you out and help me experiment, help me try new things. And there might be some of you out there who are thinking like, whoa, wait a second, experimentation on a wedding day? That doesn't sound like a good idea at all. But I would honestly say that I think it's a perfect day to experiment, because you're only experimenting with 2%, 1% of the work that you're actually doing over the course of the day. 98%, 99% of that work that you've done is stuff that's in your wheelhouse. It's stuff that you know how to do exceptionally well, and that you're able to do that so well every single time. The experimentation only comes in that little tiny fine minutia where you are trying different things. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you're going to work your way through it. You're going to continue to try new things and see if you can make them work, both what's in your mind, and make it come out into a way that eventually that new experimentation point becomes something that's part of your wheelhouse, and you're constantly trying new things. And for me, that's where film is really helping me drive that creativity. Another tip as you're diving into film is to make sure you do this in a way that you're able to be easy on yourself. Don't try to go crazy. Don't try to walk around with a 8x10 large format camera and stuff. It's so much work to try to incorporate into your work. So start small. Start in a place that you feel comfortable adding it in. So, and with that, I kind of have two means. One thing is make it easy on yourself, and that just pick one film. Don't go nuts. Just pick a film. Buy a 5-pack, buy a 10-pack, whatever it is, and just use that one film until you start to feel comfortable. And just keep experimenting with that one film, or if you really want maybe one color, one black and white, or something like that. And also that goes for if you're just getting into film, don't do your self-developing. I love to develop my film, but that's taken me forever to learn how to develop it, to learn how to scan it, and even now I'm still learning how to do that better. And so it's okay to push those things to the side and just focus on the creatively making photos, and eventually you can build out from there. And let this new creative pursuit be a thing that really drives a lot of new ideas, but only take those things, again, being easy on yourself, only doing those things one step at a time instead of trying to do everything all at once. As far as being easy on yourself and making it an easy start, it's actually, well, actually, I'm going to switch into my wedding clothes here for a second because I think also physically I can show you something else here. So I'm going to switch clothes really fast. One of the other ways you can make it easy on yourself as you're diving into and adding film to your work is to not complicate the photography situation too much. And so as I was starting, like, yes, I definitely could have picked up something like this big Mamiya RZ67, which now I bring to weddings. But when I was first doing in film, like, these are big and daunting and it's hard to carry over your body and all that kind of stuff. So I would recommend starting with film cameras that are easier to carry with your life. So the easiest would be something like this, like a point and shoot. And I wear this vest, which is partly for, you know, a look, and I don't love the style, but it works a lot of the ways because it's so functional. Because I have these pockets. I mean, honestly, I keep like, I think I have earplugs in this pocket and stuff like that. I have lights. I do all kinds of things with these pockets. So it's nice to make that easy, that then I can be taking photos on film or on digital and then just immediately grab the camera out, take a photo, put it back, goes on with my life. And similar, that goes also with something, if I wanted to step it up a notch to a little bit nicer camera, something like this, which is a film SLR, but it uses the same lenses as my DSLRs do. And so I can take a photo and then slide it back. And with just a little bit of adjustment, that actually becomes a pretty easy solution. I also have a nylon strap instead of this leather one, which makes it easier for sliding back and forth. It makes it really nice and quick. Similarly, when it comes to using film, I try to minimize how often I have to change the film. Now, because I'm not a primary film shooter, I'm not going through 20, 30, 40, 50 rolls a day on a wedding. I'm only going to go through 3 to 5. And so with that, it's pretty easy for me to go into a situation and say, I'm going to take this camera, and even if it is something like the Mamiya, if I'm bringing this in here, I'm going to know that I'm going to shoot one roll during the first look and bridal portraits during the day. And then I know I'm going to shoot another roll of that later in the evening. But as I'm working, I go through, this takes 10 photos, and I get to that point and I've taken the 10th photo, I just set that camera down and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to try to roll it up. I'm not going to try to change the film because I don't have an assistant to do that for me. And if I'm going to take the 3 minutes it takes to change that, is that better spent getting this experimental look or letting it go, being okay with what I've taken, continue with digital, and then have it ready for later in the evening after I've had dinner time where I can swap it out and stuff like that. So it also means that because I'm only taking 3 to 5 rolls, it's a lot easier to store the film over the course of the day. You have to be careful with those things so you know where your film is at all time, especially once you've shot it, because you just don't want to misplace things. So for me, I always take all my used memory cards and I stick them here inside of this like fanny pack, this like traveler's, you know, dorky traveler's pack, but it works really well for having those right there on me, and I shove my film in there. But honestly, only 3 to 5 rolls will fit inside of that thing for me. If I started shooting more film, that I need to come up with another solution just because that's only so big. So it's just something to be aware of. But with that, I think I'm done with this look and I can go back to my regular clothes. I'm back. So again, as I was saying before, like, you know, even if you're starting small with just one film, but feel free to pick weird films. Like, go onto eBay and buy some weird expired film or something like that. Go into all the ones, you know, you can find all kinds of things with weird light leaks added onto them and stuff like that. Or be different and try taking photos with strange cameras and stuff. If you're going to dive into film, like, maybe buy something like this, which is, honestly, this was like $3 on Amazon, and it takes 4 photos in different colors, all in there in a quick, like, kind of GIF-like format. Or something like this that's designed to be able to just take exposure after exposure and like cross and cover so that you're like making all these kind of things. Like, be weird, embrace the weirdness. I shot a wedding that I carried a Holga with me, and a Holga allows you to just take exposure and exposure and exposure and without having to rotate through or half roll it forward and stuff. And so I was able to take a few photos kind of like what you're seeing now. And they turned out in a way that was completely different than I would have expected otherwise. And I think that the uniqueness is something that really does stand out. And I know that the client really liked the photos. My second to last tip is, as you're incorporating film into your work, don't allow film to dictate or change your delivery dates. You've set those a long time ago with clients. I mean, especially with a wedding, like, you guys signed contracts probably a year ago. And so even if you're doing this new cool thing, it probably doesn't mean enough to them that they want their photos later than they would have otherwise. So just make sure you plan ahead. If you're going to be self-developing, make sure that you're taking your photos and staying on top of that so you're able to develop what you need. If you're sending it off to a lab, make sure you're paying attention to those things and you know how long it will take for the lab to develop them and to get it back to you, so that you're making sure you're still delivering photos within the windows that you've promised. And finally, my last tip is that just because you're diving into film is a new process, people aren't going to necessarily care. And unfortunately, like, that's a hard thing because you're going to get really excited about it. It's a really fun process. It's different. It's invigorating. It's exciting. And I know you're going to get super on board with this, but not everybody else cares. And honestly, that's okay. You have to just keep making photos, keep enjoying the process for you. And also remember that, like, a boring photo on film is still a boring photo. But as long as you keep pushing through and you're trying this thing, like, you're going to keep experimenting, and that little 2% of new, you're eventually going to find something that's really new, it's really different, it's really you, and you'll be able to harness that and will make more work that really does stand out. So that's all my tips for today on how to add film photography into the work you're already doing. Today, the day I'm filming this is actually my birthday, so I'm going to go get a beer and watch some Champions League soccer and relax just a little bit because happy birthday to me. But if you have other ideas in the future, if you read this, you're like, oh, I have something else that Joe, you should definitely know about, please write it in the comments below. And I'd love to hear how you're incorporating film into the work that you're already doing. And you can make that into not necessarily a seamless connection, but just a thing that says, I'm a creative, here's all the stuff I'm doing, and you as a client, aren't you excited to be a part of it? Thanks again. Have a great day.